Welcome to Be Care. The lesson is How to Be Care, where we start to get practical, and our topic is Be Care using a person's strengths. I'm Vicky Legg, I'm part of the church support team at Baptist Care SA. And we're going to be looking at strength versus needs focus, about using a strength-based approach and look at how to ask questions to enable that strength-based approach. There's a handout that you can download for this lesson, and in it has some activities. The first activity is called Meet Audrey. We're going to listen to Audrey's story, and as we do, write down some of the needs that you hear from Audrey or the issues that you think that she has. My name is Audrey and I'm 72 years old. Since my husband left 15 years ago for his young model, I've been living with Pamela, a friend from church, in her lovely house. My two sons are busy with their lives, wives, kids and work, but they make time to see their father. My granddaughter Casey visits me and she helps me set up my technology. Pamela's been diagnosed with cancer and is selling up to move with her daughter interstate. Lucky her children still care for her. What's going to happen to me? Where will I go? I can't afford to rent around here on my pension. I don't know what to do. I love the neighbourhood, my church and the shops are only a short drive away. I don't want to leave. I will miss sharing life with Pamela. She was a fun friend. Even if I find somewhere to live, who's going to help me pack? How will I move all my belongings? I don't have the money to pay for a removalist. What needs did you identify in Audrey's story? She doesn't see her sons and she actually seems quite bitter towards her ex-husband. She needs somewhere to live. She's lonely. She needs help to move. And she's short of money, and that is limiting her choices. If you've been working in pastoral care or done any pastoral care training, you're probably well versed in using a needs-based approach, identifying the issue that the person has and trying to work out a way to solve the problem or support the person. A strength-based approach takes a kind of a switch in how we approach people. And it's asset-based. It's an optimistic way of working with individuals and communities. And it's if you use the glass half full, glass half empty analogy, you're working with the full half of the glass, because when you do that, you actually have something to work with. So using our glass half full, glass empty, and comparing a needs-based and a strength-based approach, if we look at the needs-based approach, we focus on the need, we focus on what's missing, we focus on what's wrong. It's a welfare model that disempowers people and actually creates dependence. We provide the solution, and the solution is always outside of the person. It's very good of me to help you. If you come down to the strength-based approach, where we have something to work with, we focus on the assets. We see what the person has and we find something to work with. We look for what's strong rather than what's wrong. It's an empowering way to work with someone, and it builds their self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is our motivation, belief and confidence that we can change, that we can solve our own problems. So when you build a person's efficacy, they do something and they go, wow, I can do this. So they have more confidence to try that again in the future. If we take a person's self-efficacy away, as we do with the needs-based approach, the person often will fail, or they don't try, so they're disinclined to even try again in the future. With a strength-based approach, we're using what's in the glass. We're recognising the person has gifts and talents and strengths that may have been built from other crises, and we help them to tap into the resources inside of them and the resources around them in their community, and we build the capacity using what the person already has. So now I want you to take a moment and think back to Audrey's story. You can reread it in your notes. What strengths were there in her story? So let's focus on some of the strengths in Audrey's story. She has a granddaughter who she sees and who is willing to help her. And Casey may be able to help her with technology so she can Zoom Pamela when she moves interstate and stay connected to her. Audrey is on the pension, so maybe there are some other options that she could explore with Centrelink to be able to get some help with finding somewhere to live. She talked about her local community, her shops and her church, so she has connections there. And maybe someone from those connections would be able to help her find a place to live, or she may be able to enter into a share situation with them. She also has connections to help her move. She has her granddaughter Casey, and she also has friends from church who may be able to assist as removalists. So if we're using that glass half full approach, it brings hope, it brings identity. Audrey has strengths. Another strength that we haven't talked about is she obviously has some resilience and problem-solving skills because she has rebuilt her life from a divorce. Sometimes we need to remind people of, well, what did you do last time? And bring that back so that they can learn from that situation and apply it to the new one. She has assets that she can mobilise, which is in people and also in her community, resources she can access such as Centrelink and again the community, relationships that she can draw on, and there are possible options around. So part of doing a strength-based support is to help the person explore the options and see what's out there rather than just see what's wrong and the needs. In the handout, under the principles of a strength-based approach, there's a little bit more information and Bible verses to support what we're talking about. We are God's image bearers, so we have the image of God within us. That is a strength. Right thinking is a strength-based approach. As a person thinks, so they are, says Proverbs 23 verse 7. So we can help people either think to build resilience, or if we're using a needs-based approach, we're actually reinforcing their dependence. Our language use informs reality, informs how a person sees themselves. So what you say will influence the person's self-talk. So when we use words such as, the person's at risk, we might be reinforcing to them that, I'm useless, that there's nothing positive about me. So we come back to who does God say the person is. And training the mind follows along with our right thinking and our language. Like we rebuild our muscles, we have to train the muscles of our mind. Romans 12 verse 2 said, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. A strength-based approach is still a compassionate approach. You still meet the person where they're at and you support them through relationship for behavioural change. It's from that caring relationship that people are supported to change. It's a hopeful approach. I talked in another video about the prophetic nature. We ignite hope in other people, and sometimes I know at a time in my life I had someone say to me, I have hope that things will look different in the future, and where I didn't have hope at the time, I held on to that person's hope. So we can be a hope bearer for someone else, and we can ignite hope in them. That's that prophetic nature, that hopeful approach. We can reflect back to them where we see their strengths as well. And also preemptive training is about, it takes a village to raise a child, and supporting parents in building a strength, building resilience and using a strength-based approach with their children as they raise them. One of the important skills of using a strength-based approach is asking questions. The booklet from The Art of Asking Powerful Questions says, questions open the door to dialogue and discovery. They are an invitation to creativity and breakthrough thinking. Questions can lead to movement and action on key issues. By generating creative insights, they ignite change. Yet many times when we ask questions, and I am really guilty of this, we ask what are called my idea questions. They're quite directive. So although we're couching it in terms of a question, it's really us suggesting to the person what to do. So some of the examples we might use would you consider, would this work? Could you try this? Could you do this? Could you say this? Are you aware of? Is ... an option for you? Is this possible? And we suggest what it is. Have you ever thought of ... How about ... Well, one of my favourites is I give people some alternatives. You could do this or you could do that. And I think that I've actually given, because I've given them a choice, I think that I've empowered them when in fact they're still my ideas. They're still directives. So when we're using this language, we're actually putting forward our solutions. Might be couched in the terms of a question, but we're presenting our ideas to them. One that I have heard used is if you were smart, and then they put the option forward. One of the problems with that one is you're also implying that the person isn't smart because they haven't thought of what you're about to say. So if we go over to the other side, it's where we ask open questions, which can be quite powerful because they encourage the person to reflect and respond. They help the person to see, as it talked about, the question lead to movement and action because they generate the creative insights themselves. So some of the questions we can use are what, how, where, when, in what ways. And we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. So in looking at how to create powerful questions, we have the pyramid. Down the bottom, we have yes, no questions. These are closed questions. And closed questions often have just a one-word answer, yes or no, or it might be a name or a date or something like that. They often get a bad rap because they don't allow the person to explore. But as we'll see, closed questions have a place when we're talking with someone because with them we're able to clarify that we've understood and that we are hearing the person. So moving up from that, we have who, when, where, which. These are open questions. Often they're about trying to get the facts out, but they enable a narrative. They help the person tell their story. We can ask what, and when we ask what, we're asking the person to think. They're thinking about whatever you've asked them what about. An example might be, what worked well for you last time you were in this situation? Moving up from that, we can ask how. How did you feel about? So we're starting to probe deeper than just what people did, but looking at how they thought, how they felt, how they coped. And then finally, we can ask why. Now, we've got to be very careful with a why because a why can be very accusatory. Ever had someone say to you, why did you do that? That's not a helpful question, why. Why can be a helpful question when we've established relationship and we're listening to someone's story and we're deep inside it. We could say, why do you think you reacted to ... So why, again, is that reflective thing, and it moves beyond just what the thoughts were. So we've gone from action to thoughts, but to why did we actually do this? And then, as I said, you can use closed questions to clarify, and we can use them also to funnel a person towards action. That's the end of using a strength-based approach. There is a couple of other topics in this lesson on how to be care, and they look at the practicalities of supporting someone through transition and also supporting someone through crisis.